13th, just a few
Oh,
weeks ago.
okay. So that's what my son's birthday's November 12th.
Ooh, that's a
Scorpio,
powerful. Yeah.
Gemini, or Scorpio. Is it Scorpio?
Well, yeah, it's Scorpio. Technically Scorpio on the Western zodiac. But it's so funny because if you actually like look at it, like when people are like, "Oh, the sun's in here," if you actually go look at a satellite, like you can go to like livesky.com and you look to see where the sun is truly placed, it's always a few weeks behind what most of the collective is talking about.
Oh,
So
really?
we actually align through the zodiac to the actual galactic zodiac that is not based off of the lunar perception of the orientation of the sun, if that makes sense.
Right.
Because it's like, you know how you talk about a solar return, like, oh, this is how many years I've been born here. Every year coming around, like the sun is in this house. I'm a Scorpio. I'm a Libra. I'm a Gemini. I'm a Leo. Well, it's interesting because we have satellites and stuff that we can actually observe and track the measurements. Way back in the day, especially a lot of the teachings and sciences of the Magi, we were able to utilize these sciences through the applications of the sacred sciences. There was a point, though, where they decided to make it simpler, where instead of actually looking at the true location of the sun, they just decided to look at the location of the moon. And instead of having the 13 core signs that the sun goes through, they just brought it into 12. And then they said, just look at the moon, and whatever is directly opposite of the moon is where we're going to say the sun's placed at. So the standard Western zodiac and stuff is actually using solar placements or solar alignments based off of lunar placements, where we choose to use direct solar alignments based off of where the sun is actually at in those constellations.
God, I'd heard. So, because the 13th sign, right,
Yeah,
starts with an O, right?
Ophiuchus, yes.
Yeah, that's actually my sign, from what I understand.
Wait, you're actually. You're so right. We are in Ophiuchus right now,
Yeah,
actually. So thank you for connecting that dot. I'm like, it's your birthday tomorrow. Oh, wait. You're like, Ophiuchus. Oh, wait, I'm in that sign.
yeah. This dude several years ago when I got online, he was kind of a poet dude, So we both kind of had something in common. And he wrote me. He said my birthday's the same as yours, and he was the one that introduced me to that. I didn't even know about it, and he sent me all this information on it, and it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, sometime, because apparently there's like Vedic astrology and everything too,
Hmm.
which apparently they work with like the 13th sign and everything. But there's like so many of these different things out there that I like that hold either like various levels of these divine truths. But like I haven't been called to, or a lot of the times I've been told not to try to study a lot of the things that are taught out now and to only reclaim, learn, and remember what's held within and navigate through that. So like I'm so excited as more of our family gets to come together and we get to be like, yeah, this is what this perception has been for these few thousand
Hmm.
years before it got distorted through here. But I'm so grateful for the alignment right now because the fact that like it's your birthday
Hmm.
tomorrow and it's something that we are literally initiating the Ophiuchus sequence at that time in preparation for the window that is occurring on the 12th, because this window of the 12th to the 21st is clear is this 999 master time portal that we. Oh, are we actually? Oh, we are live right now. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. You're
I
rolling,
was.
man. Just keep going.
Okay. Well, aloha, everybody. We're talking about, I guess, Todd's birthday and the incredible alignments of Ophiuchus that we are working in right now. Um, sorry, I saw
No,
one
no,
that was
no. That's okay.
counting
I'll get
down
you. I'll get you
originally.
back on track. No, because I was actually going to go there with you because over the last few weeks and even today, talking to Patricia Cota Robles and Ty Hudnall, a lot of people's, like you were saying, everyone's coming together. They have their understanding, and they're all starting to integrate and merge. So, what's kind of been the consensus, I guess, just through talking to people in regard to their own experience over the last 3 months, is that October brought in some type of, and I think this was right after we talked, uh, like some kind of major final push purge kind of thing that just, I remember waking up the 16th, I think, of October and just going, man, this is not like before. Before you could walk outside and see, oh wow, things are different. But uh, it was like walking outside and just going, wow, this is a whole different. I mean, it's not even different. It's just it's there's nothing here that I've seen before, and everything that was is no longer relevant or some weird kind of connotation like that energetically. And then there was like an integration period, and then November came, and 11/11 just brought in something incredible. Patricia Cota Robles went into some detail that she understood there was a 40-day period which would end, like what you're talking about, right around the 20th. She talked about the 12th, and just Ty talked about it as well. But what's your take on October, November, December, and what we're heading into? What we're heading into that you were just talking about?
So I I love how we are playing like outside of time, and everything that's needing to be expressed is manifesting in real time, because I just remember our last interview where you had been asking about the 1010 gateway,
Okay.
and we didn't really get a dive into it. I started to, but I got a little bit into the override and was hearing a perception from your side of what of the overrides we're working against versus the true Christic solar override system that is here that we are a part of. And so I got kind of swept away on that, and it was also really incredible just to feel such a powerful flow of support from your entire network, our
Yeah,
tribe, like
I
our
mean
family.
that show I think did the last time I checked, which was probably 3 months ago, 2 months ago. There was like I want to say like 14, 15,000 solid views. I mean views where people stayed on like 30 and 40 minutes. So that show
So
that show did real well. Yeah.
are the views that you see on you? This is something I could always ask you this another time. But are the views you see on YouTube and stuff not the entirety of the views that are
No,
seen?
no,
Oh
not at all.
wow,
No, not at all.
wow!
YouTube represents probably about 30%, maybe,
It's
depending on
just
the show.
incredible
Depending
because
on the
I
show.
was because there's been a lot the last few years too that I've been told to prepare for when I turn 30, coming around my 30th birthday. And then what that would signify between the approach between 30 and 33, which will be in 2024. And there's just all these little signs and little things, that I'm like, hey, watch out for this. When this happens, this is going to be indicative of this. Like when this happens, this is going to be indicative of this. If these all happen at once, get ready because it's going to mean something like this. And with everything we go through, it's like you kind of get an idea of what to expect, but you kind of just release any type of attachment or perception of how it's going to play out. And systematically, starting from like the couple, like basically, starting from um, really starting from October and approaching up to my birthday, like which was November 13th, pretty much from mid October all the way through November, just systematically so many of these things just happened all at the same time, or like calls I get finally, it's things we've been waiting for years, things I didn't even know if it would happen in this lifetime, all within a matter of weeks. Like time, it's ready to go. And your call, the first you inviting me onto the podcast at first was like, it was another sign that was actually confirmed for me, because it was roughly when I was 27 or so. This is when I was starting to be told that I needed to actually start to put out more videos and things out about where we were at. And I'm kind of a person, we focus very directly on gnosis, like speaking that of which we have actually alchemized into a body state of being that we can actually utilize. And this is what we express, this is what we share. This is why sometimes we can't give all like the PhD level facts and stuff somebody wants that our linear mind's been conditioned to be like, oh, you know what you're talking about. But people can feel something behind it, because that level of truth is something that cannot be taken from you, and that's yours. And whether or not people have that, it's your own like jewel, it's your own wisdom that you can hold and carry. And so at then I was told that there was going to be a point in the future that was going to come faster than I would recognize, where we would literally be unrecognizable to the majority of the population, include of like the angelic humanity tribes, including even those that have known us our entire lives, or even some of us that have found us in the in-between stages of our journey. And a big part of what has been utilized to manipulate our family or mislead them has been through the eradication of the origin stories and through fabrications or half-truth misinformations of the original families and of the original storylines. Just enough for people to be like, oh yeah, I feel that, I remember that because it's in our soul genetic level, but not enough to remember the actual details that were wiped from us. So it creates this little bit of confusion where this goes into the gnosis. We have to start over at a very beginning of asking questions, being open to a new truth, discernment, refining our discernment, and evolving and distilling these truths as they come in. But there was a lot, and like I will say I did my best through all these initiations, but sometimes like my ego would get in the way and be like, I don't want people to see me in this state, like, or I don't want to trigger people too much on this. Like, let's just wait till the perfect time when we can speak clearly in all situations and such. So but one thing that kept coming through was that the moment that I put a video out that goes online that has over 1,000 views from the initial viewing would be a sign of what was going to be happening, another sign of indicating something that would be happening soon. And so, like, with your just looking at the YouTube sides and stuff like that, I had actually anticipated originally maybe like a couple hundred people or like a few hundred people coming on. So even right off the bat, when I saw that it was at like on YouTube, I saw it was over 1,000. Like, my heart was like, it was coming through. It was like, this is one of the signs you've been waiting for. It's now confirmed.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and then when I saw a couple weeks later, when I got back on, like that it was at over 2,000 on YouTube, like I was like, this literally doubled it. And then I was like, if it's the last time I looked, it was at 2.2. And the twos are such a powerful number, especially for the divine union. And it's something that came in really strong when it was time for me and my beloved hierogamic partner to come together. So, first of all, thank you for hosting me on that for inviting me on and for giving me that opportunity to kind of just get caught up in the moment, but to just really
You
be
did
so
great. I
well
think you did
received.
fantastic. You popped your cherry. You broke the ice. I mean, your energy is still the same. It's still pure and genuine. But I can tell you're more comfortable. But yeah, no, because I've been doing it so long, I do pay attention to the metrics, not because of the linear measurements, but because of the frequencies and the movement of energy. But there's certain shows that come on, and you could say, in a way, like the stars align. And it doesn't matter if you put out a post or promotion. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. Everyone just comes somehow. And so that show was very much like that. In fact, I'm still getting feedback from that show. But I think, from what it was that you were, because to be honest with you, I have very little literal recall of the show, which is not out of the ordinary for me. I really remember the energy, and I remember what the resonance was, or the attraction, the magnetics of it. In regard to you, it was very new, it was very fresh. It was, somebody just put up there, this guy looks like he's very lit. It was very lit. And the fact that you were mixing in, the standard verbalization of the human language along with the light language, and it wasn't structured. It just came when it came, and so the whole thing was a really interesting experience for having been on a show that's had many very unique experiences that are definitely involving energies that we might say are non-physical, or that we're getting more accustomed to, that's really our natural nature. So there was a lot that you brought in. And now that you say you're 30, and talking to Patricia Cota Robles in the first show today, and she's been doing this since the '60s. She's got an extraordinary following and community. She was talking about the souls that were born from after the harmonic convergence up until today, and how they were basically a special group that had been kind of in, not in hibernation, but kept in a certain place. I believe she said around the central sun, and for the right time, because they were coming in essence, without karma, and obviously of an unconditioned frequency, and that their yeah.
I'm sorry,
No, don't apologize. No, this is how you communicate. This is what I was talking about. But she was saying, "We're with you, brother. You're good.
Everything's so good." It just. Sorry, sometimes.
She was saying that this year, 2022, in so many words, these aren't her exact words, but this is their year of coming out, and that this wave of these young people would be creating the new pillars of our realm, not by deconstructing the existing, but by creating new beautiful creations in the Trinity energy that would make the old ones obsolete. And that this is the year, this power year of the twos. Does that resonate?
You.
Does that resonate?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. It's the truth of what's happening. And it's amazing to hear more of our family speaking this at this time, because this is what we are moving towards. This is quite literally what we've been working towards, is disclosure, is the remembrance of what has been, and not through following another individual that is telling you this is how it was, but for every person to finally be able to remember for themselves, and enough to be able to remember to set an example and to illuminate through an embodiment that we just, from our gnosis and what we believe is the epitome of what every person has ever sought for ever since coming into this creational existence. But with everything, it's a choice. And how can anybody make a choice if you don't understand all sides? There is no right or wrong, but we do feel that we do believe very strongly, and this is the reason why our family come in here. And I do want to say, I'm going to say this because I know things flow, I would really want to, I'm just anchoring a seed priority, beloved God and our family. I would really, because I feel it's very important on this show, it is time to share an aspect of what has occurred between what your first question, the 1010, and what's actually occurred building up to this point. So I just
go for it.
I'm like, remember earlier when I was like, it's been a whole lot of good and a whole lot of crazy at the same time, which is all good. We're processing so much because we're this is everything we've waited for. And so half the time right now, essentially while we're doing our own stuff and building and we're moving forward with our next project that for here in a couple of weeks, that is literally a course we're opening up for the next level of public that hasn't been able to work with us before. And it's just another piece. It's the accumulation of all of the core teams and family across the planet. And so, but I do just want to say, because I noticed last time I wasn't really able to go into it, and free will is a big part that we have to discuss, because I didn't really get to go into it last time in the way that it was. And I remember there was one person's comment that stood out, and I felt her concern. And I always want people to feel the right to question. It's I don't want even if you resonate with everything I say, don't just blindly follow us. but like know that like if there is something to trust, like we can share our gnosis and can help provide a safe container and foundation for us to discover and remember this truth together. And it's already happening, just like you were saying, the show you were on before, sharing, almost giving like a preface. It's like people can watch this and it's almost like it was planned to go from one to the next to the next. And we're not trying to rush this, because our family, if you really think about the totality of the power and authority, that whether or not you recognize who I am and who we represent, or who our families are, or who you are, and what we're all doing here, if you can at least understand like a divine order, like there is a remembrance. We want to remind our family that our true family is 144% all in for the highest good of each individual. Like there is never a level of judgment or anything that ever occurs, even to those that are of other tribes and races that the angelic humanity tribes might have a lot of trauma of. To us on these levels, these are all our family. And there are just various levels of fallen creation that have occurred. And so with all levels, we must honor, and we want every person to have every opportunity for all levels of soul growth and expansion, both rise and fall. Like it's imperative. It's how God, all that we are, like this infinite expanding force, can truly experience, continue to expand, continue to grow. So through this, through these levels of the experience we've gotten to, because of the trauma and what's occurred, and because of what we've now seen manifesting in our field, in our lives, this has pushed people to have resistance or pain against God, against our family. Be like, why would they have, if this existed, we would never be treated like this, or feeling like we've been abandoned or betrayed. And like, it's one of those things that there were certain things, just like you were talking about the group that came in that had to come in at a certain time, and now this is when they're rising. Like there is also something from our family that as this system began to fall, like our consciousness could not even exist at this level. Like that level of our higher animation was literally like it could not exist here. So it's a completely like it was the density that we're at, like the dimensional densities that we're at, thrive for beings that are of a lower frequency and consciousness that cannot reconnect back to source. But for us down here, it's like almost like they tried to be like, we can lock our family out and nobody's ever going to be able to get in here because, it's so dense, they're going to have to fragment themselves and fracture themselves and stuff. But then there were those of us that were like, we've done this so many times. Like, you can't lock us out of our own home. Like, we know you're doing this because we know what happened. We know that fragmentation that made you feel unloved and abandoned yourself. And we've seen how you've continued to perpetuate this to our family and infected our family here, that have perpetuated upon themselves and each other. And like, it's just time for so much of this to end. And so these things, because so many chances for remediation, for rehabilitation, for assistance were provided and offered, because like we always want to give the benefit of the doubt. If somebody says they're ready to change, like we know every single person, no matter how old you are, no matter how much you've fallen, you are and will have the full ability to rise back into the totality of your divinity. And that's why our family is here to do this. But it must be a choice. And so there are those that we helped, that we honored their choices to the point it brought us here. They locked us out. We knew how to do this. There was a risk, and this is why even all of us ourselves, it's been a very delicate process, because to even get here, we literally had to fragment ourselves. Like we had to come into fractures so that we could incarnate simultaneously through all of the time matrices. Because in order to actually override, kind of like you were talking about, instead of like, destroying things that are there, we're building new things. It's kind of both. We're building an entirely new structure. Because if you look at the artificial intelligence and the anti-Christic structures, in the beginning, you're like, let's just get rid of all of it. This is bad, this is harmful. But when you're looking at the system, you're like, this has been blended into our system. Like most life right now if you just tried to unplug things and pull things, it would cause catastrophe. It would cause chaos. It would cause death. Like, you have to understand the mechanics and the core codex to be able to be like, okay, this is there. Yes, of course, this might be scary. We want to get rid of it, but now we've got to see where this is anchored. Because if we do this properly, then we don't even have to attack and do all this work. We just have to set the structure, hit the timeline, bring in the override sequence, and like a flower, it just blossoms over it and utilizes all of that as like that new resurrected quanta to birth a fully organic system. And so like that's all it is this system is not organic. Our home is. This has become an inorganic construct. There, we have like artificial, which is a lot of the false ascension and a lot of the stuff that comes up that every single one of us, especially those of us that are big pillars or hold big roles. It's the closest things depicted that represent our home, that represent our family, that represent our lineage. Our memories were wiped. Our soul can feel a resonance. Why would we not go in that direction, especially when we can hear and feel the truth? It's like we awoke out of one 3D illusion only to like quite literally like have a mirror. It's like, oh, okay, we woke. That's our home. And then, but we're still kind of hazy, can't see properly. And they just bring up a bunch of strobe lights. No, home right here, flashing things. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, that I don't know exactly. That's got to be it. So you're like, my home. It's really pretty. And you're just like, my family. And, but it's kind of like here. How many people have you met that you're like, you are so unconditionally loving, only to find out that at their core, they're about to stab you in their back, or their true intentions were to try to some sort of competition or some sort of agenda.
Yeah,
And
Jinn is not flying anymore, is it? I mean, it's like like there's something at the soul level that's activated in almost everybody. I mean, it's just like if it's not real, it doesn't register anymore. It's pretty in your face. I mean, it really is.
That's why like it's really we're at a point where those of us like that are here doing this, like it can be so hard and confusing because our memories are wiped, we've been fragmented, we're putting this back together, where at the same time, like a lot of our identities, our genetic codes, our teachings, our records and wisdom were all stolen, we're all input, a lot of them were created into programs that they can put into the light bodies of others as political leaders and figures or in the spiritual communities. And so it's like you have people that get massive followings, and you have people that like over these years previously are really big and claiming I am this and I am this, and people are like, oh yeah, and like, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, and then for those that actually are these pillars or actually are these roles, not because they're trying to be something that they're not, but because they're here trying to be who they are. And an average person is not going to just run with something. Like those of us who have gone through the alchemical cultivation and like transfiguration to the gnosis and remembrance of who we are, have literally been shown like 1,000 times who we are and what's going on. And just enough of the moments like, yep, and we do it, bam, 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 ha, yes. But there's still something that goes on that can knock us off of that, to doubt ourselves. That's why it's like you speak what you were speaking of like this year and this time. I start crying because it is truth I know.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, I know, I can say I know because of what I have experienced and been shown. But even I am hesitant on to say that I know, because there are so many factors that are changing. And there were times starting 7 years ago, I was like, I know this is going to be the time. It's going to be and it was a probability timeline, but it was always dependent on the decisions that me, you, us, our family all make. And the thing then was we could end this like this, but how much longer do we want to wait? How much longer do we want to struggle? How much longer do we want to play in a game? We don't really, it's kind of like Monopoly. Like I played Monopoly with my family for the first time last Christmas, and it was great. Because I was like, and if anybody out there really loves Monopoly, this is just my opinion. And it was a great metaphor for me. But I was like sitting there, and it was the first time with all my family and stuff like that, or like my close family, we've been able to come together in a while, and there's been a lot of healing and stuff in our family life, just so beautiful. And so I was like, we're going to be able to play games, we're going to go in a hot tub, we're going to cook food together, we're going to make Christmas desserts, and we're going to get in our Christmas pajamas as a family and like sing songs and they're like, yeah, let's play a board game, let's start a board game. And they're like, Monopoly. I'm like, oh, I haven't played that in years, like let's play Monopoly. And next thing you know, it's like, it's like right off the bat, the handful of the people start getting like the main properties and you're playing. And the next thing you know, it's like the couple people are just getting so much money. And the rest of us are just sitting there for hours, just like struggling and not having fun. And my mom's over there being like, I'll just give you money to help you out. And I'm like, Mom, we got to play by the rules over here. Like, and so, but at the end, it just started kept going and going. And I was like, there is no point to play this game. We already know how it's going to play. Like this game, we are stressed. We are arguing with each other. We're one person is going to win, and it's taking away. It's getting later and later and later. And now we're not going to be able to do this thing we were going to do. And now it's getting later. And now we're not going to be able to go sit in the hot tub underneath the stars and laugh together because we're stuck, focused, playing
In
this
this
game.
in this micro illusion. What a
Yeah, of
great,
this little money.
yeah, what a great analogy. What a great metaphor. Like, okay,
It hit me
like
so hard.
how do you going back to what you were saying earlier, and what we were talking about these souls after the harmonic convergence. Like, so they're not going to deconstruct the rules; they're going to construct something new. What does that look like? I mean, there's so many different aspects of our collective experience we could look at, like capitalism, uh, and I think that's been a big um, challenge in this transition as we've been transitioning or trying to find our way or feel our way has been how do you do the things that I do, that you do, and that so many people watching do, which is utilize their connection and information from infinite intelligence into, and I'll just use 3D terms, into their vocation, where your passion becomes your abundance generator. Yet there's these capitalistic rules of you got to charge this and you got to charge that. And I've heard everything from, well, I've got to respect and honor myself and charge what I'm worth. And I've heard the other end of the spectrum, which is I'm just going to give me whatever you want kind of thing. And I guess we're probably closer to that, but none of it's exactly right. I'm just curious because you just turned 30. You're representing that group. I'm 60. And it's interesting. Yeah, like you said, there's no coincidences, right? Like, what's your take on that? How do you approach, uh, you know, integrating your passion into being able to take care of yourself? Because we still have to pay rent, and you know what I mean. Like,
So,
do you ever think about that, or has it been an organic
I,
kind of thing?
oh, I've had to think about this so much, and I'm just laughing because this actually came up in regards to this last course that we're doing right now.
Okay.
And luckily everybody, you have the people that reach out that are really, really respectful, right? And then you have other people that are really in that victimization, that have been like, I've been trying to get help and nobody helps me because I don't have money and you
How,
don't know what I've gone through. And people are like, da 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 da. And because I haven't shared a lot of what I've gone through. And most of the people, I won't say anything, but there's been a couple people I'm like, especially when they're like, I had to go through this and this, you can't even understand. I'm like, sister, brother, I'm like, this is what I've had to go through. I'll take out just a couple years snot. And they're like, oh, okay. They're like, yeah, nobody really gets us, huh? And I'm like, I get what you're going through. I know that I have been in the same position because
yeah.
my path too was that the times that I wanted help, that I thought I couldn't do something on my own, that I was like calling or praying out for help for other people to come in. Like, ironically, like there would be people that would come in and they would come into like somebody around or my beloved and be like the exact person, exact situation, but they would always refuse to help me. And
Hmm.
it was interesting. Like, it was interesting. There was a level of initiation for myself, but there's also things that happened that we now know it comes with high risk gamos and certain attacks. So there are certain people that come in that are like, they literally will just be like, no, you need to run away from, like tell my partner, like I'll be calling someone and call them into the field. They're like, oh, I can't help him with any healing thing, but you will help you with everything that you need and all this stuff. And it's these really divisive things that my beloved, it was very educational for my beloved and I to learn, and as well as to see some of those that came in and from one side, because they're high level psychics, what they're tuning in on, they had never seen before. Because there's certain things about certain ones of us here that are very unique when people actually get access to see what's going on in our fields or what we're working on. This is why most of our work's outside of time. So sometimes it's really scary, other times it's very empowering and illuminating for others, and it helps us work together more harmoniously. But the times where it's been scary, when these people, and granted, out of the times people have been scared, there's only been one that's been able to come back. And they were able to actually go into their heart. And when they entered their heart, they were then able to see. And what they were able to see changed everything. And it was
You,
an end. And the wait,
yeah.
what?
No, I was going to say, do you think that's happening? I mean, like one of the characteristics of the transition is either through conscious effort and or uh, what the one, the you, me, we, and it is putting good pressure or movement into, let's just say, the bodies, and moving that energy into the heart. I guess another way to say it would be, are we getting to the point where when somebody comes, like in a situation like this, comes and says, oh, you're a light worker, how can you charge? How can you call yourself a light worker? Or, the different things that you experience, where we don't answer because the communication's being conducted through the heart. In other words,
Mhm.
we don't address, and for I know not knowing another way to put it, but like the lower vibration or the projection
Mhm.
of an imbalance, because it's really not about you and what you're doing. It's about that person. You know what I mean? We all know this.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you think we're getting to the point where at a conscious level, we can be confident not to go there? It's not that we don't care, but I mean, like, I don't know. It's like, do we engage or not engage?
So, okay, so this is just all the little pieces that have been, it must be a collective thing right now because these have been coming up for this last week, and you just brought up two things that I was showing I needed to make a post about to share
Okay.
publicly. But I've got like hundreds of things that I'm showing I need to like post or videos about, and I just don't have time right now. We're going through our own integration process because we're all in this together. So it's not like we're just at this point ready to tell people. We are able to share what we are going through, and as we go through this and get to the next point, we're going to be able to share to others. And there's pieces with us on the organic part that we're going to be able to help that people out there like that when you get these, it's like game over on every
Yeah.
level of imposition that's been
That's what I
coming in.
mean. That's what I mean.
Just like there are others out there that I've met that do not have what we hold, right? But they hold stuff about certain things about the body and
Yeah.
things like, just to
Yeah.
give you an example, like one brother that spent years traveling around just to learn about tapping and body movement. And for years, I had stuff about how important it was for me to tap my body. So I would do this stuff, I'd be like tap, tap, tap. But I started off in the beginning with my thing where I didn't feel energy. I couldn't see anything or anything like that. I would work 8 to 12 hours a day for months in a row and off a level of inner gnosis that it was possible before I even got to the next point that opened this up. So for like me to now be at a point where it's just like constant, is like the
You're good.
okay, I want to. Can you please just refresh on the last thing that you had
I
stated?
got, no, you were perfect. And I got a great way to re-enter it. No, because you're right. I have seen people that have a very structured um, menu, let's just say, put it like on a website. Here's what I offer. Here's the energy exchange levels. Here's what they are. I've seen people do that it's very fluid, it's working, it's expansive. And then I've seen the other end of the spectrum work, but I've seen cases on both ends of the spectrum that aren't working. So and that's just one example. Another one would be like what you were just talking about, um, or any part of this really. But what struck me, what you said was when that aha moment comes and you're able to see in the field of the other person because you are seeing through the eyes of your heart, basically. It's like nothing has to be said. You see the exchange or you see the equilibrium, and boom, life goes on in a whole different way at that point.
Beautiful, beautiful. Like Yeah, at the end of the day, right now, like the biggest thing for anybody, like this is it's like if people want to know the cheat codes, like instead of trying to like go and find all of these other things out there, because that's what I was talking about the tapping thing. The most I was used to the big extreme, the eventually the big intense things. So the really simple things, I kind of there was a point I was like, this isn't that necessary. But it wasn't until me not learning how to process and get out of my body just certain things that were coming up and certain things that it started to create levels of numbing and stuff. And then of course my side's like, what back door was infiltrated? What type of demonic attacks going on, you know? Just to find out. It's I just the little simple things I just wrote off as irregular were not able, you know, were what was caught were interfering with the processes I was going through. So I meet one person that like a beautiful brother that like is in all fairness is still really entangled and stuff, but
Right.
he's so grounded, so clear, so powerful. But and it's because all of us, it's just learning about what's interfering with us and stuff. But I hold no judgment. It was beautiful to be met in a level where, because I could also feel that he had very pure spirit guidance coming through. Like there were times he talked and he would just say something like, that was actually directly a message I've been waiting for. Like,
Right.
and I
Right.
can read these things, you know? So I start to observe. I'm like, this person's into alignment. And I can see, and there it was interesting because it opened up on a side where we were able to talk and express. And I was still dealing with my insecurities, being like, I'm gonna be judged for this. He must be hating me on all of this, you know.
Yeah.
And no, he just met me so beautifully. It didn't mean he agreed with me, right?
Yeah.
You know, but it
Right.
gave him a new level of discernment for this. And from that it was something that like whatever happened with him on that, I've even told him, I because we don't, it's not like we've really connected, this is like it's not like we're really close or connected, we met at a men's retreat. But after that we did reach out and I did express to him that the one conversation and what he expressed about him when he had to regenerate one of his organs and something that had gone on, and what he learned about just the tapping, and something that was so simple that by hearing another person's experience through their embodied state of gnosis and having it click with something on my soul level gave me the simplest piece that I already knew what to do with and I just had to run with. And that in combination with some of the other simple pieces, I was just like, if I missed one, what else did I overlook? That I just brought back in have been like saving graces for myself and are things that I still need to work to apply. But it's like that wisdom applied right there that was
Yeah.
shared is worth is invaluable to me on my
No,
journey.
I get you,
Like
and
it
I think I get you, and I think that's what happened on the first show, and I've seen it happen on other shows. We were going, "What the hell just happened here?" But it's like it's not even the verbalization, and I want to say not even the light language. It's just the awareness, the observation of somebody who's in their gnosis. Let's put it that way. Of somebody who's in that who's got that channel flowing, and that in itself brings some kind of recognition, self recognition to the observer, who then just, I don't know, in a quantum way, let's just say a non-human way, by conventional standards, it just affects us. And I think that's what you're describing, and I think that's what happened on the last show and shows like, I mean, on the last show we did and shows like it. It's like somebody comes in and it looks like on the surface they're speaking a different language, but the energetics of it is that home that you're talking about. Yeah, something like that.
yeah, no, exactly like that. The only thing I would like to illuminate is when you mention the channels and what's
Mhm.
coming through, because it is all about reconnecting our channels,
Mhm. Yeah,
restoring them, repairing them, upgrading them, encrypting them. And when it gets to a point when you're actually channeling, because if people are at a point where they feel they're called to channel outside of themselves, like I just offer do whatever people feel called, but I have found the guidance for myself directly is we have never needed to channel anything outside of ourselves. Our
right.
highest self is what can safely delegate and work with all of these other teams and groups and stuff.
Right.
And because we are multidimensional beings, many of us have our own versions that are in these different star systems or in these different places. So it's actually another aspect of one of our higher selves that we are connecting with,
Yeah,
not an
absolutely.
outside.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you on that. I was actually referring to like the channel, the channel of the column of light that we are, that theoretically we have blockages, we show them as, shrouded chakras or organs that are, have a mass because of constrictions. But that in other words, when we're observing someone who has their channel cleared, that's, how that goes, where you get it and you kind of like, it's immediately shareable, like it just comes out, like what happened on the last time we did a show and what's happening now and what's happened on shows like that. But
Or
oh, I have
four
to,
four four too.
what's that?
Oh, I just saw the quad fours. It was 4444 right when you were saying that too.
Oh wow, see, there you go. So yeah, and I was surprised. SG just brought that up. I don't know if you know Judith Kuzul out of South Africa.
I do
She's
not.
Yeah, she's been.
Oh, actually, I wonder if she might have commented on one of our
I think
videos
she
because I
did. I
saw.
think she did. Well,
Okay.
because SG just
Oh,
brought it up.
sister.
Yeah, she said Judith said when she shared that show that he was a star being. That was, I think, something that came through, if I remember now, on a lot of the comments. Because if you look at these communities, they're typically 45 to 65, and now a growing at part of it is 35 to 45. But for the most
Mm-hmm.
part, it's 35 and up. So
Mm-hmm.
when you have, let's just say like in this microcosm, 3,000 shows, and traditionally this is what you get. We've had young people on. We've had 9 years old, 7 years old, 12 years old, but there was something about what you brought that was almost like a glimpse of what's coming, or what is, and what is now anchoring and expanding, not just in our young people, but that part of us in the other crowd, in the older generations, that's being activated or being invited to be activated, something like that.
Yes. I love this so much. It's also so helpful for me to grow too, because I get into a moment where like, all right, I'm grounded. Then you'll speak something. It's just such divine truth. My soul's like wanting to cry again. I'm just like, just breathe. It's all good. We're all remembering and discovering this together. So the oh man, you know, it's in so
Here, I'll ask you something else. No, I'd like to get your perspective on this, because I think this is another thing, like the how heaven flows, equal energy exchange. That's been something that's been on the table in these communities for quite some time. Another thing that's been there for quite some time and continues to evolve and expand and become into higher alignment, but still it's a struggle, right? Is you're starting to see a change from people in how they look at those people or those energy complexes, like institutions, that are playing the antagonist role, or the opposite polarity, that are providing the catalyst and the friction in kind of a, you know what I mean? But like the way people are starting to look at those things, there seems to be less of a charge occurring, less of a personal indictment towards, let's say an individual, or not able to see him as a soul. I mean, do you see that happening? What are your thoughts on that? There's no right or wrong. I'm
okay.
just curious as to what you're.
So I'm going to see if there's a way where I can be clear enough to loop in like literally the last half a dozen questions you've asked, because they are all pieces that go into the same masterpiece performance that's unfolding for us all. So, first of all, in the ages, yes, most of the ones that have been doing the work and are coming into more of an alignment and gnosis of what's going on are between the ages of 45 and 60. Or, some older, but generally it's that in those ranges. These are generally the These are the deeper state in an organic body templating. You are supposed to be reaching deeper states of embodiment. Now, there are still a lot because over the last few decades is when a lot of the first seedings and infiltrations for like false ascension matrices and a lot of these distortion programs came in. So there's a lot of belief systems, just like we deal with. It's like spirituality is another form of religion if we can.
Sure,
Just
absolutely,
like
absolutely.
so at the end of the day, we just have to treat it as the same thing. And just most of us already did this once in a lifetime, so we already have that training to do it again. And that's for each person on their own journey at that. Same thing all up and down the ladder. It's just those that are up are having a little bit more maturity in their body systems to be able to process things. You know, have a little bit more humility. Where especially like when you look, I mean, because when you look at like even the digressions to our consciousness, like the masculine emotional maturity doesn't even develop to about 43 years old. Like, you know, it's like the feminine develops much younger. Like our consciousness doesn't even begin to come together until our mid 20s, which is when we can actually play this game and start making decisions because we can consciously make the decisions for ourselves. So it's something that we don't really see this with most people that are like my age or like when I was starting this at the certain ages in the 20s, especially like, you know, 7, 8 years ago, because it just is that's generally when the soul is coming in and most people haven't even figured out their personality identity matrix, which is supposed to be embodied by the age of 11. So like, and most people even in their 60s, 70s, 80s, it's a form of spiritual retardation. It's like we see somebody that's in an 80-year-old body that's 6-year-old mind. Are we going to treat them like an 80-year-old man, or are we going to treat them like a disabled person right now that needs help and needs to be treated like a child? Same thing. We've got a lot of family that's older that wants to be called elders, but has never been able to evolve past the first triad, like past the first three chakras, which you could call the chakras are another level of an interface that go in with the spheres, the DNA and stuff. It's, but there's just levels. It's just easier for people to understand the chakras, but it goes
Right,
deeper
right.
into that. And these are what have gotten blocked, and these are what gotten people kind of snared or snagged and such. However, we are seeing, because with all of the work that's been done, especially from the core group that you were referring to, that where we're at now, and I will say there's something within this group, something that I hold that is also activating certain others that are not within this time period, because there was a core grouping of our family that was put in stasis until the time where we could be awakened. And then there's an emanation of our core councils and family that many of them did come in with the timing that you're speaking of to hold the pillars that we are birthing and resurrecting right now. And that this last year, we are literally like part of what we are seeing and what the gateways that are coming up with are these portals, are the work that's been done over like aeons, millennia, centuries, decades, and years, now being alchemized in no time, being brought through 0 point and being aligned through the necessary time vector chambers to be manifested in real time in our physical reality. Like we are literally at the point where everything we have ever waited for and more can begin. It is beginning. It has already begun. For those that are a part of this is why, like we've been saying since 2017 began a process we referred to as the audition process. This quite literally is what was depicted and utilized as a fear tactic, depicted as Judgment Day in the Bible and through religious things. We are here to remind our family, once again, our true family does not ever judge. There is nothing that you have ever done that will ever be viewed as right, wrong, bad, or good. Like any of that, it's your experience. We honor you and we know what you've gone through on this. And so it's one of those things that like now, okay, I'm trying to everything's happening. Things are happening very fast because we are hitting the core original family that are in stasis. These are what are known as the original royal families, the original Magi, Grail kings and queens. These are the original archetype seedings for this universal creational system, knowing that there are many universal creational systems, just like a lot of our families that are here preparing to open the gateways to allow transit in and out of this system are from the raw universal God world domains. And keep me. So I've got codes and all this stuff that's wanting to come out, but I'm like, no. Especially, I don't know exactly how much our timing is, but
We got
it's
about
around
10. We
this.
got about 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So I will say that right now, the 35 to 45 that you are seeing that are emerging are those that are actually now that are the next stage in between, that are closest to a younger age where the neuroplasticity and such is easier to adopt and flow into new belief patterns, especially if you can get out of the ego. And the genetic template, regardless of what work you've done, is more calibrated and prepared to begin to receive these levels of transmissions and embodiment sequences. And then now those that are, and it kind of just goes up the ladder, but we're going to be seeing everybody awakening at different stages, and it's going to be a slingshot. As some awaken slowly, it awakens certain group it awakens them very fast. And then as this group awakens very fast, it's a little bit slow for them, but as they awaken fast, it hits the whole in ways that, like, we are literally lifting each other up. It's like rock climbing up a wall. We anchor on one, then, the other goes up and anchors just in case one of us falls. We guarantee nobody's falling to the bottom. Everybody's getting brought up back to the top. So, and this is something that so everybody is awakening. This is happening very fast. I've been called everything from an indigo child, like a star child, a rainbow child. Like, I will say that step outside of time, like, I personally am an emanation and hold a seed crystal for all. Just like but this is part of my unique journey and path based off of who I am and what I'm here to help restore. Because when you've got the original file, you just got to be able to plug it in and know how to work with the architecture to resurrect it. If you don't have the original file, you're trying to, it's like if you create a masterpiece, you write 10,000 pages, something incredible, you lose it all, and you're just trying to pull it off. Like, I think it was this, I think it was this. No, get your backup copy, plug it in, put it back on. So I'm going a little bit more rapid, but
no, you're good.
It's
You're
something.
Good. You're good. You're doing fine.
So it's something that now, with what we're flowing through, and this is something at the end of the day, right now, the game has begun. All you need to do is start asking questions and figure out how to get into your heart. Because straight up, there are things that are going to be dancing all around you that until you literally can get into your heart, you will not see it. And sometimes you need to ask the questions and learn to ask for help. Because what's been said, ask and you shall receive, is now online, stronger than ever before. And if you're asking and you're not receiving the help, chances are there's some point in your life where you've said something or refused or blocked out this help for yourself, and you can release that. And if you need help, our family's here to help you with this. Now,
that's been coming in. That's been coming in big. The asking, which has always been there, but what I've noticed, I was telling the previous guest, is that I'm noticing that the reciprocation's immediate.
Yeah, no, right now.
As soon as you go in and you're in the right alignment, and you know what I mean. You go in not attached and everything, but in the right way. I'm noticing over the last few weeks that it's been an immediate response.
Yes. And there are, especially those of us that are doing the work. This is why we can see this. We don't have to take somebody else's word for it. We are observing aspects of this in our own lives manifesting. Now, it's happening at faster or slower. This is happening for everybody. As of this last Thanksgiving, I was just in and out of sobbing, trying to navigate through family stuff and downstepping the necessary templates to help our family through this upcoming course that we're bringing forth. And it was just apparent. People that I literally, there are things happening I did not think were going to happen until 2024, and others that were not going to happen until between 2031 to 2033. And they're happening now.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to get back to the final three things. I'm going to work to see if I can fit them in within a 5-minute window.
Yeah, go ahead.
All of these things, and I'm receiving the aspect about free will and why our family is here, why we are able to do this is a concept that if anybody has any questions about, we can go in at another time, because that is a key thing that our family is continuously wanting to have expressed and represented, because some of this can be confusing for people. Some of it can be a little bit hard, a little bit triggering, whereas other people that have already gotten the clarity and are reconnected with their families are kind of being briefed on various facets, so we're able to support each other and help those that might be freaking out about it, which can also help those of us that are overseeing these projects focus on what's needing to be done instead of having to try to modulate or mediate and prevent other negative energies being sent in our fields from people that might be confused. So going into now, because I'm working all the way back to the 1010 portal and what's happening now that begins tomorrow, or that begins this week starting on the 12th. We're already in right now, part of your birthday and all of this. It's going to be like a beginning and the end. Beautiful. So in regards to, the heart, this is how we find our way home. Also, at this point with asking, we need to be aware that our family is here now working to help guide you home. So be aware of what's more so than ever what's coming into your field. If you find yourself on this video and there's, like, or if you find other people, other information, it doesn't matter how low or how high it is, whatever's coming into your field now holds the keys and pieces for the next stage of your growth. Okay. And just like if you were a healer or a person and you're like, I'm not as good as this person, because you talk about the call, my call and my channels have so much resurrection, have so much reanimation, and it needs to go on. And like, but with what I've taken, those little bits that come through that then get shut off because they get attacks trying to break these communication channels, I've taken those little bits and spent years cultivating that gnosis. And then after years, that little piece then took the next thing. Instead of having to spend another decade, it maybe only took another couple years. And now it's coming to a point where, like, basically just at the end of the day, the heart, asking questions, finding our way home. When it comes to the levels of discernment, because when it comes to the game, we do have the right to resign. This is why when you talk about the polarity, the charge, of the friction, but it now not affecting everybody as much.
Right.
The polarity, there is a need for this to really illuminate what people cannot see.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there is an attempt to generate this, because equally, if you feed into this, this is the last final ways for them to fuel this fallen enslavement construct. So equally, those of us that get this have to begin to go into like a state of of neutrality, of triunity in that center, and not feed into getting too excited, like being happy in the center, not feeding into either the positive or the bad, seemingly positive or seemingly negative, because that is a game, just like Monopoly. Yeah, it's great when you win and you make some money and somebody lands on your house, but it's better to step away from the game and go play in an organic system and have fun with your family in a healthy way. And so there are times where right now, straight up, depending on where you are at right now, you need to learn to discern we're still doing this ourselves. I'm still learning this, when to engage to help our family, to actually give our energy, right? Versus when it is something that is not in alignment for you at that time.
Right.
And this happened just the other day where somebody came in. Of course, it's the day after we post about our solar union ascension is the planetary and universal container my beloved and I, as Christ, Raya, Ryan, Melchizedek through Hyros Gamos hold. This is also through our core council, like Richard and Rosalie, Richard Melchizedek and Jessica Rosalie. They are our brother and sister, direct pillar holders of our sacred council. And so this is a container we are holding, and many people, it's without going into, there's a lot to this. It's part of the reason why a lot of stuff is possible with where we're at right now. But of course, we posted something, then go into 7-day silent retreat in preparation for the Ophiuchus and for what we're moving forward with this 999 master time portal crisis gateway that's happening on the 12th. And sure enough, it's the day after that we go on, somebody goes on and puts a comment on. Basically, the way it's there is directly trying, it's an underlining manipulative tone that's directly trying to be like, you're Luciferian, like, oh, I thought you were real living light, but now I'm never going to do anything with you. And it's like, so I'm like sitting there, and when I get back off, because we get off the retreat and we're like in the silence, and I'm like in a joyful thing, and I'm like, oh, great. I'm like, what? I'm like, I know. So I'm like, I know if I was doubting things and I saw that and didn't have full discernment, I'd be like, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait a little bit. So I'm like, as you know, and we're discussing, it's like, do we delete it? No, I'm not afraid of this. Do we want people to have suppression? No. And we want people to we want to give an honest response. So I had to make sure, I was like, I'm just going to respond. And I was like, and I told my beloved, I was like, if this, I'm going to post whatever comes out. But if there's even a charge that is even somewhat like trying to be like, oh, the Christ versus this division of any of this, like, I was like, I don't even want to post it. I was like, I want to make sure that we do honor this person, but I want to make sure that me coming out of here, I'm actually like representing us and who we are and the ways that we actually stand for. Because like, it's something that, once again, like, even on that division, like, we do not consent to any Luciferian agendas, but we are not here to fight against that. Like, if that makes sense. So it's something that it's a very unique thing. So just to now time it. And this is the same thing with the finances and stuff. Like I was saying, if you are a healer, you're doing work, like it took you a lot to get to that point. Don't hold yourself back because of what you're able to do, because there are people around you. We have contracts to be friends, to come into each other's fields, to help each other, to give you an opportunity to learn and to get that abundance and support and to help them. And they're going to have that opportunity to do that with others. And when you fulfill that and you allow somebody to help you or you help another, and exchange is not always set in stone money. Like, but there is an understanding that, hey, just like people donate to a charity, just like
Mhm.
people donate to a cause, like in the most loving ways, most all of the charities and organizations on the planet do not work with the new templates and structures that are coming out. So it's like if people could actually put in, if we can come together in unity, which is happening, 2022 is the year, and actually start to be like, these are the templates, these are the plans, what pieces do you have? Like, this is
Mhm.
the core foundation. It's open source. We don't have how we're going to do this. You have that, you have that, you have that, but this is this perfection template where everything becomes possible. And it's something that even for us, like I will say that it's like the first course that we brought up, because this is the first time we're opening this up to the public, but last May was the very first time in 8 years I received a single level of financial compensation for my devotion and work that has been nonstop. And I had to choose this path because I used to make six figures in the past. I had two houses, a house in California and a house in Colorado, and it wasn't until almost getting killed and literally given the opportunity, because I ran away from it for years when I had the resources to do it. The one time I took 3 months, was flat broke. It wasn't fun. By the time I decided to like make a new decision, like I was almost killed, and I decided to go back. And it was like, hey, you've done this every time. What would happen if you just chose to just go this direction and just give this a try? And it's a story for another time,
The
but I did
crazy,
make
the
that
crazy
decision.
road, the crazy street.
So, so it's like going through this, going learning. You go through all the unworthy. Like, how am I worthy of this? How am I?
Mm.
There's so many people that if they had this, they should be able to do this. And
Mm-hmm.
then at the end of the day, when we came to the point in May, there was a point when our families came in and were like, you need to bring out a course. The public needs what you hold, and
Yeah.
you need help from our family to anchor this in. Like, you don't need to be by yourself or with the people that randomly get a call. You need to buy a plane ticket, fly to this state, look for this person. And that's how people have been finding us when they need to
Yeah.
find us. Like, people get crazy stuff that normally doesn't happen. So now we're at a point, and we were crying. My beloved and I were like, at that point, we had been told to close my house the year before, and then all these fires happened in Southern Oregon. So we didn't have our own home for about a year. We were dealing with we were being told, we were to the point where we were like, we don't even have our own money to get into our own house. We can't even really feed ourselves in the ways that we need to
Yeah.
actually help
Yeah.
the transfiguration. I was like, and now you are asked. We don't have websites yet. We don't have a way to have us feel comfortable, for people to feel confident to even come to give us those levels of exchanges. Like, the people that know us or come into our field, no questions asked. But that's
Yeah.
not what we're working on these other sides. And so it was just, we were asked to trust, because we're like, how do we even help our family if we're at a point where we can barely even do the next stages of this completion work that's needed? And every time where there has been large abundance, it has not been in alignment. And we've had to stay in integrity and step aside, knowing that
You
of
got to
which
do it.
truly is in alignment would be here.
That's right.
So we almost didn't do it. And I literally, but I always go into the highest alignment, and I was like, I trust. I was like, we'll do this. And literally the moment I trusted, like that week, we had like almost a dozen people from different countries that I had
That's that.
never
That's
connected
that.
with that.
That's that immediate reciprocation I was talking about. Man, I wish we
Well,
could go longer. I wish we could go longer.
can I? Is there a way I
Mm.
could get 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Is there
Go
a
ahead.
way completion? Okay.
Yes.
So the whole thing, the financial side, just to complete this, know that even at the point and even things we were doing now, there's been periods of weeks to months that I've had to process, because this information, my heart believes everybody deserves this in its entirety. However, I have had to learn to know that every person has had the equal right to cultivate this. And it has been that of which we have put in. So we hold this. And it is just like, what is the exchange? How can we help each other? Like, if you feel we have something to help you, we want to share it with you, but we want to be honored and not just be like taking from, but also knowing there might be some of you that really need this, that need that help, and we're equally here to give. But it's on a dependent situation for each individual. It's in the highest good of all. You just have to truly want something for
True.
yourself and ask for the help, and that will be there. And now, because this is something that'll open up on everything, the timing that we're in, what we're in now, starting December 12th to December 21st, is it's the beginning and the end of a brand new start of everything. It is what we refer to as a 999 master time portal that began in December of 2012 when the Ascension gateways and windows were open, and this process began to become an energetic potential, and then an energetic probability, which is now manifest as an energetic reality for all. So it's something, it took 9 years. And then within this, it then took 9 months through the galactic zodiac, what we've been establishing to re-anchor the original organic soul trajectory to each individual. This is the original trajectory path for the 11, 22, 33, 44, and 55, the ages we briefly touched base on. So it took 9 months to restore us to get to this point. And then now between December 12th to December 21st is 9 days. This is during the time of Ophiuchus, the 13th sign that was removed through true zodiac. If you truly want to follow zodiac of the sun, look at the true solar placements, not where they say the sun is at based on the location of the moon. Simple as that. We follow the sun and the light emanation alchemical broadcasts that come from this. After all of these years, this last August began a cycle, and this was the first time certain things were finally able to be brought into motion in real time. Certain sacred architecture, after many years, finally began to come online. We had some of our first members of the team, this was when Richard and Jessica and ourselves and certain individuals came together for the first time, and were able in person, and were able to actually do what was needed to do on some sequences. From August to this upcoming August, we are on a 3, 6, 9, 12 cycle. From August to about November, September, October, November. Yeah, and then November to about February, February to about May, and then May to about August. So I believe, sorry, I'm kind of rushing things. So around those things, it's 3-month intervals where these are key points where we're going to be watching major shifts happen. And this is why you were saying things picking up in November, but come around November, you could feel that shift. We're reaching accumulation windows, just like we were talking about. I hold the 3 to 30, you're now 60, holding the 3 to the 6, 3, 6, 9, 12, bridging these sequences. So no, and so what began? That began the 1010 was just another massive declearing, unraveling portal. They're all stages preparing for the next. Now what we are at, this is a 999 like master trinity portal, because the 12s are a 3 in Pythagorean breakdown, and so but they're mirroring each other. So this is a Christed portal number. Remember, Christ, not one individual, the entirety of the emanation of eternal love, joy, peace, and unity consciousness made manifest for all. So it is something that as we move through this, so basically as we move through this is the next series of gateways. We will be seeing more between now and Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus is, during this time, the golden gateway that's been opened. Long story short, once you come into alignment with the natural laws and principles, and as of today, as of whenever you've received this, even if it's any moment in time, as of this moment when you receive this, if you can start to ask and learn the natural principles and laws and truly want to embody and know truth, you will be given every piece, every resource, and faster than you know it, you will have a level of freedom that has not been accessible by any single individual currently incarnate in the Earth Kingdom at this time now.
That feels right. Ryan, Melchizedek, round 2 will be coming back tomorrow. Evidently, we have a birthday show with Hung the Gwyn, and then evidently we have a surprise guest that Morgan's arranged, so that should be very interesting. But more on that later. Ryan, brother, we love you. Thank you for what you're doing.
I love you so much.
Beloved. And we'll catch you guys tomorrow, and we'll do it again sometime, Ryan. You take care.